Hey, what's good, ladies and gentlemen? Acklon here, and of course, welcome back to Mythic Banter. As always, joined here by Rurikon. Rurikon, how you doing, bro? Punching the camera and stuff.
I'm doing fan-friggin-tastic, except for the fact that I'm brutally sleep-deprived as ever, but, you know, it is what it is. This is actually the only podcast I'm recording this week, so I'm kind of, nice. Refreshed.
No, I have another one later today. So, and I'm sick.
Sounds like fun.
I have flu, so I apologize ahead of time if I cough or sneeze or
you can't.
Random.
No,
I apologize ahead of time.
That's not allowed at all. You can't do that.
But we're gonna try and get through it. I feel like ass, and I still have another podcast after this, so it's gonna be a fun day for me. But ladies and gentlemen,
I was gonna say you look like ass too, but there you go.
That's mean.
That's me. Yeah.
But ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to each and every one of you. We are, as always, super happy to be joined here by you, and just want to give a massive shout out to all of you that continuously smash that like button like it's your little stepsister. We appreciate that. And
wait, what?
Yeah, bro, I said what I said. I said what I said. Okay. No, but we appreciate you guys. Hey. Thank you so much. I love how you were in the zone and then you were like, wait, am I going to celebrate that? I'm not celebrating that.
I cannot approve this message.
But no, we do appreciate you. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, we have a wonderful show, jam-packed. I actually thought leading up to like yesterday that there's not going to be much happening in the gaming industry. And then suddenly everything seemed to have happened all at the same time almost.
Exactly. That's the beauty.
Yeah. I mean, the gaming industry took a bit of a break. It's back. It's swinging. And we start off the first topic with Asmongold, as we have to pretty much every stream or every video. Okay, so Asmongold,
the Rat King is making some drama.
Yeah.
He's making some waves.
Yeah, Asmongold is making waves now. But what's interesting about this is the first time that I can say I've ever seen Asmongold sort of knives out, guns out, let's go. Like, it's almost as if Asmongold have now decided he's at war with Twitch and he is going to weaponize his entire base. And do the thing that people have always accused streamers of, right? Like, you know, you're a streamer yourself. Whenever something goes wrong, people are always like, oh, they're weaponizing their community, which never actually happens. It's just sort of,
I don't actually, why do you say that he's weaponizing his base? Because, like, the videos that I see don't really include him, like, you know, trying to weaponize.
Yeah, but you don't, that's
audience.
not the point, right? What he's doing is, so for those of you that don't know, let me just give the setup and then I'll explain to you why he's weaponizing his base.
Bring us into that context.
DanCon Stream is a smaller content creator that have basically been given leaks and dumps of in-house Slack messages between Twitch staff, and it is bad. It is really bad. The problem is DanCon Stream is a smaller creator. So the reach that he has isn't as big as...
Wait. Yeah. You can't say that Dan Can't Stream is a smaller creator when he literally works for Destiny and has access to Destiny's audience.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because even Destiny, compared to Asmongold, would be a smaller creator. Remember, Destiny's base was pretty much decimated when Twitch kicked him.
No.
He has a big audience, but not as big as Asmongold. So I would be willing to bet it's not as big.
Destiny?
Yeah, I've kept up with Destiny. If you watch most of Destiny's videos, he'll get between 500,000 and 1 million views on his sort of videos, right? The clips from his streams. You watch his streams, they're good, right? But they're YouTube streams, so most viewers on YouTube tend not to cross over to the Twitch audience. They're YouTube viewers. So everything that's released on YouTube isn't necessarily going to cross over into the Twitch sphere. So by what I mean when
so you're saying, okay, you're talking about like his audience on Twitch, not necessarily. Okay. Then you have a point. Yeah. Destiny doesn't have
most of the Twitch audience would still be blissfully unaware of what is currently happening on Twitch and how Twitch applies the rules. I mean, we've always known this has been like the worst kept secret in the world that Twitch does not apply the rules equally across the board to everyone, right?
No, I am super surprised. I had no idea this was happening.
Yeah, but now we have
never
evidence.
heard it. By the way, did I ever tell you about that? That they censored one of my emotes?
No.
They did.
What? How? Why?
And they apparently didn't like it. Wait, I can actually show you which emote it was, and you can tell me if this is something that is so evil and so unfathomable that it absolutely needed to be censored because it was just, it's just completely downright obscene.
My emote that people join my
stream. By the way, you can't
on.
use that. I'm gonna send it to you.
Okay.
You can't use. You can show it on screen, but you can't use it.
No, I won't use it.
So that was deemed too obscene by Twitch staff.
Dude, but why?
Yeah, exactly. Why is that too obscene? What exactly is so wrong with that thing?
Well, by the way, I'm uploading this to my Twitch now. This is my emote now. You've given it to me.
They're gonna. But yeah, basically, I had that commission, and for those of you that don't know, we're talking about a commission that I had made by a very talented artist that basically represents the handler for Monster Hunter World doing a Ayagao face. This is very well known in the community what this is, but that's it. She's doing an Ayagao face. This is something that everybody has on this platform, and they have way worse versions of it.
Well,
but somehow my version of this super innocent thing is like, nope, that's too much.
I would say if I'm
much.
Twitch and I'm thinking from Twitch's perspective, which I'm not because I'm actually intelligent, but if I were to think from Twitch's perspective, they might think that the little drops on her face is cum. And that may be why they decided, hell no.
The drops of sweat and drool. It's like,
yeah.
bro,
I'm just telling you, I think that's what they might think. But no.
They probably did. But yeah, they don't enforce their stuff equally because that gets banned. And yet I've seen the whole meta of streamers just like having like the black bars thing. With the implication that they're basically completely naked and shaking the boobs. And by the way, I'm not against this. You have those beautiful assets. By all means, use them. I would use them too if I had them. I'm just saying there's a little bit of an inconsistency when it comes to their application of rules. So when you bring this up, it doesn't really come as a surprise. I was just being ironic. But
no,
yes.
I think the thing is we now have proof of this, right? And I think when I say Asmongold is weaponizing his community, that's literally what I mean. He's bringing DanCon stream onto Twitch. And he's
going to interview him on his channel. Okay, I didn't see that.
He's interviewing him on his channel. He's going to let DanCon stream show everything on his channel. All of the shit that Twitch is pulling. And Asmongold have already said if Twitch bans him, he'll just go to Rumble or Kick.
I saw that. I mean, the thing that I don't understand is why would Asmongold threaten to go to Kick or these other platforms when he has a massive audience right there on YouTube? He's got like over 3 million subs or something ridiculous like that.
I think
just stream on YouTube.
So I understand why. As someone that streams on both Twitch and YouTube, I can tell you the community sentiment on YouTube isn't as good as on Twitch. And what I mean by that is the community on YouTube.
It's very loaded to say it's not as good. I would say it's different because I value the community that I have on YouTube quite a lot. There's some really cool people on there.
No, I don't. That's not what I'm not talking about. What is like? I mean, for streaming.
I get what you're going for. I'm just saying there's a community on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
It's just the tools that the community has access to, like the chat experience, is inferior to the chat experience on Twitch.
Yeah, but the culture, I would say, is also inferior depending on what you do.
No.
Let me explain. Let me explain. It is dependent on what you do. So when I stream on YouTube, What my YouTube audience wants me to do is chat to them.
By the way, I would just like to remind you that somebody recently got banned from a platform for talking about inferior cultures.
Yeah. But I mean,
So
I think in this one we're fine by talking about the culture of streaming and community and stuff. I think we're fine.
I know about that.
You know,
I don't know, man.
the reason I see it as an
Dangerous topic.
inferior culture dependent on what you do. If I just do a just chatting stream, YouTube is brilliant because that community wants to engage. Like specifically on YouTube, they want to chat, they want to like have conversations and stuff. But when I want to play games, for example, my YouTube community automatically isn't as excited about that. Because what I have found, at least, and this is just my community. Now, remember, I haven't spent a lot of time, and I hate using this word, but it is technically what we do as content creators. I haven't spent a lot of time training my YouTube audience for this. But what do you find on Twitch, for example, when you're playing a game? Your Twitch audience will just chat amongst themselves. They'll just be talking to each other, spamming emotes, whatever, right? On YouTube,
I think this is mostly your personal experience because that happened. Like, I recently streamed Veilguard, and because very few people care that much about Veilguard, they were just in my chat talking about like Monster Hunter, Elden Ring, and all these other games. At one point, I was looking at a comment, and I was like, "Wait, what? No, the Veilguard's not like that at all." And people were like, "We're talking about Elden Ring, bro. Shut up." Like, shut up. We're having a conversation here. You just continue being the clown on screen, right?
But you may have already got your audience to that place where they're fine with that. Whereas the reason I know it's not just me, I've heard plenty of other creators say pretty much the same thing. The YouTube audience wants to talk to the streamer. They're not really there to talk to each other. Whereas on Twitch, because it's been around for so much longer and it has been the premier streaming platform for so long, people join the community and they become part of that community, right? So they show up every day, they meet the same people, they become friends with those people. So I think that's why he doesn't want to go to YouTube.
Those things can happen on YouTube as
No, they can, but you have to put in the effort for them.
Yeah, of course. But you also have to put in the effort to building a new community on Rumble or on Kick. It's not going to come out of nowhere. It's going to be a completely new thing, which is why I'm saying if you already have an established base on YouTube, you would get, not to mention that for something as important as this, I feel like you want to get as much visibility on it as possible. And therefore, you would benefit much more from just posting everything on YouTube rather than going to a brand new base.
Well, yeah, he's still going to post everything on YouTube, but I think...
Yeah, but regardless of that, it's like whether he does it one way or another doesn't really matter. It was just a curiosity that I
would argue the reason he wants to do that also, so I think the community culture thing is definitely, and I just want to make it clear, I love my YouTube community. I do. The podcast that I'm doing later today is on YouTube.
He hates all
for World of Warcraft stuff. I love my YouTube community, but it is marketed.
If you're watching this video, just know Akalon doesn't like you. You specifically watching this right now. He hates you. He hates your guts.
True, actually, dude. I saw.
He's never gonna like you.
Dude, I saw this was the biggest burn. This guy posted I can't remember what he posted, and then someone replied and told him he's stupid, but basically just said the thing he posted was stupid. And his reply to this guy was brutal. He said to this guy, "If you die today, nothing in my life would change." And I was like, "Holy!"
I've seen that a couple of times. Yeah, that's pretty fucking savage, dude.
That was just like go for the throat, immediately rip it out, screw it. I just thought that was such a bud.
Yeah,
but
I've seen that a couple of times.
Or like I don't know if you saw the thing I retweeted about TeamSpeak. Someone asked, "We need a pride flag for unemployed people," and TeamSpeak retweeted with the Discord logo.
The funny thing is, where's TeamSpeak retweeting that from? The fucking grave. It's like, they don't really have a leg to stand on, bro.
I don't know anyone that uses TeamSpeak, but
Exactly.
hey, you know.
It's like TeamSpeak over here, like throwing jabs and being like, "Yeah, I'm here." It's like, they're like half deep into a grave.
Okay,
and
Grandpa,
like, come on,
let's get you
fight
to bed.
me.
Come on, Grandpa. Literally that.
Exactly, dude. They tweeted that from like the fucking retirement home, bro.
Oh man, but yeah. So the thing is, it might also be just to stick it to Twitch, because if he goes to Kick, let's be honest.
Yeah, Kick is a much more direct
Yeah.
competitor to Twitch than
YouTube
is.
wanted to be
100%.
a competitor to Twitch, and then somehow they just decided, nah, screw it. Because all of the promises they made for live streaming, they just stopped all of it. All of the tools that they were promising a complete overhaul to the UI. All of that, they just sort of, no one knows what's happening there. It doesn't look like YouTube is actually interested in competing with Twitch anymore. And I kind of understand that, but this would be a major deviation from what we're actually talking about. But live streaming is very difficult to make money on. But I think that might also be why Asmongold is doing it. Just go to one of the direct competitors and kick Twitch solidly in the nuts. Because I do think, you see, I think Asmongold may actually be one of the few people that has the loyalty of his community to the point where if he left,
they would follow him
and went to Kick,
They would follow him.
they would
100%.
follow.
Because Asmongold is in a position which, regardless of what people say, because obviously there's this perception that, oh, Asmongold's terrible because of this, that, and the other, and whatever. But regardless of what you think of Asmongold, he has something that no other streamer has, which is he provides a certain amount of context and a certain amount of insight about the things that he talks about based on his life experience, which is, whether you like it or not, because a lot of people don't like this, it doesn't change the fact that it is a very relatable thing. He has relatability to a huge part of his audience, which is more than what most streamers can say. And because of that, his audience will follow him wherever he will go,
100%.
more so than likely any other streamer. So yeah.
No, 100%. I agree with you. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. We're obviously going to bring you the up-to-date because we don't know exactly when he's doing the stream with Dan, but we know it's coming. So we'll probably be talking about that next week.
Just like Winter.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So next up, and Rurkon, you're going to have to lead us into this because I just quickly scanned the article. NetEase.
Here we go.
So what scumbag stuff has NetEase been involved in now?
The Skin Job Company.
Yep.
Now, I wouldn't necessarily say that I have a problem with this company. You know, I don't really have a big problem with NetEase as much as I just fucking hate their goddamn existence.
But if they died,
do.
today, nothing in your life would change, basically.
Actually, no. If they died today, and I don't mean like the people died, if the company died today, my life would actually improve for the better, considerably. So it's not even like a neutral thing. If NetEase as a company died today, they went fucking bankrupt and they lost all of their IPs and all of their deals and all their businesses, it would actually be a good thing for me because all the other companies would look, hey, maybe we shouldn't do what NetEase did because they're fucking scumbags and they just thrash IPs left, right, and center. Maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe we should actually, you know, take care of our player base and be decent fucking human beings. Because listen, for those of you that don't know, NetEase is the company that did Diablo Immortal. Did you play Diablo Immortal?
No.
Akalon?
No. Why? No.
So let me tell you something, okay? As a huge Diablo fan that I am, I forced myself through the experience of Diablo Immortal because I was like, if I'm going to criticize something to the lengths that I'm going to criticize Diablo Immortal, you better believe that I'm going to do my best to be as informed as I can so that I can tell you exactly why it fucking sucks. And those are 40 hours of my life, which was 40 hours was enough for me to play through the whole game, beginning to end. The first version of the game, okay? And I played through the whole thing, beginning to end. It was a piece of fucking dog shit. There's a lot of people that were saying, like, actually, if it didn't have the bad monetization, there's a pretty good game here. No, there's fucking not. The game is shit. The monetization is worse, and it's just fucking bad all around, okay? It's a terrible fucking video game. And I hate what they did to that franchise. But they keep on like a little, like those Klingons, and I'm not talking about like StarCraft. I'm talking about the ones that cling on to your ass like and just like mooch off of your fecal matter and just like live there, That's NetEase, okay? They're a Klingon, the bad kind of Klingon. And that's what they do. They basically cling on to these IPs that you like. Like the next one is going to be Destiny.
Yeah.
And they just fuck it up. They just fuck it up and they make these terrible fucking experiences that nobody actually likes, but everybody fucking gets addicted to it. It's a goddamn slot machine casino piece of shit. Now, that should tell you how I feel about NetEase. So therefore, I was actually pretty happy about the fact that basically a couple of employees of NetEase were arrested in a multi-million-dollar fraud scheme that involves nearly 30 companies. Now, this is really, really cool. So the report here is late last week, Bloomberg and the Chinese outlet Lifang reported that several NetEase employees have been arrested for money laundering and bribery. So it's not enough that they were laundering money, they engaged in bribing government officials. Whoa. The company is currently developing the Overwatch 2 competitor Marvel Rivals, which I've actually heard a lot of good things about from people that actually care about these games, and the mobile game Destiny Rising, which is going to be another vehicle into your fucking wallet. Yep. But basically, the estimates and the extent of this fraud is some reports indicate that it will amount up to 2 billion yuan, which is about 277 million bones, or dollars, actually. I like saying bones. That were involved, but the game developer reports that the actual price is likely closer to 800 million yuan to 1 billion yuan, which is actually 111 million to 139 million dollars. But basically, they were money laundering. I mean, listen, what exactly do you expect from a company that has absolutely no fucking moral compass and just pumps out absolute fucking casino drivel slop? Yeah. They have nothing. They're garbage. I fucking hate them, and I hope that their company goes under. That's as much as I'll say about these.
Something very interesting in this article as well is the head of the marketing and former head of NetEase esports division, Xiang Lang, has been taken away by the company's internal anti-corruption department for investigation. And then it says other employees who work under Lang are also reportedly under investigation for purchasing traffic to help promote NetEase's top products. So, I mean, this is not the only company that does this, by the way. There's a lot of AAA developers now that are caught consistently purchasing bot traffic to their tweets, purchasing bot traffic to their posts, but basically just trying to get ahead. And of course, it kind of makes sense that this is what they're doing now, because prior to this, they had special privileges from Twitter, right? So the previous Twitter ones would give you this blue check mark, and if you had this blue check mark, you would automatically be pushed out to millions of people, just automatically, because that's just how it worked. With Elon Musk's X now, that's not how it works. Your stuff actually has to be good, and people have to share it. So it's a lot more organic. So now suddenly they're finding themselves in a position where they have to get likes because the Twitter algorithm want likes. And so they're purchasing these likes in order to get their stuff seen by more people.
I wouldn't necessarily say that it's much more organic. There's still plenty of bots over on Twitter. Yeah. I will say also that I do not like the fact that anybody can just purchase a blue check mark. Like, I did it recently because I'm curious to see how the monetization works, if it at least pays for itself or not, because it could be another source of revenue. But the situation previously was incredibly corrupt and with a ridiculous degree of favoritism, which is interesting because a lot of people seem to have this idea that, X was so much better before Elon Musk. And it's like, I fundamentally disagree with that. Like, you need to understand, I actually had people trying to impersonate me, which is one of the reasons that you can get like a blue check mark is like, if somebody's trying to impersonate you, we'll hook you up with a blue check mark to make sure that everybody understands who you are. Yeah. And so I actually applied for it, and they said, no, go fucking pound sand, bro. It's like, what the fuck you literally say here, if somebody's trying to impersonate you and you're like a public figure, then contact us for the verification stuff and whatnot. I showed evidence that were like 2 or 3 accounts trying to impersonate me. and I go to them, it's like, hey, here's what's happening. Can I get like this check mark thing? And they were just like, no, go fucking pound sand. I was like, oh, I get it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean the previous Twitter one was really just like a popularity contest, and it wasn't
much.
who was more popular with the people. It was who was more popular with the company. If Twitter liked you, you'd get a blue check mark. Congratulations. I don't mind the blue check mark thing because it doesn't. All it shows is that you purchased stuff, right? You paid for it, which I think is fine because technically speaking, it does do what the blue check mark was supposed to do, and that is confirm that you are who you are, right? And if you pay for it, you have to confirm
but anybody can make an account and then pay for the blue check mark, and then they can see, I am this person.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't think
Although
so because
they do have a thing.
You do have to apply.
They do have a thing now where you can report that person and you can get rid of him or something. Because now I've seen a lot of people that do the impersonation thing, but they have to say that they're a parody account or something.
Yeah.
Oh, whatever.
Anyways,
it's just like getting lost in the weeds.
But this is a sort of, this story is probably going to develop even more. And this is just sort of what happens.
Good.
When you have corrupt organizations like NetEase, it's almost guaranteed that it's going to have a lot of corrupt people working for it. Because
the skin job company is what
very few good people will go work for NetEase, considering what NetEase... And guys, I'm not suggesting that NetEase doesn't have some good games that they've launched. Of course they do. The problem is...
No, they don't.
For every decent thing that they launch a bunch of drivel that no one should ever play, and yet it keeps pushing because people get addicted to this stuff, and NetEase doesn't care.
I don't agree with what you said. I don't think they have a single good game. Fuck them. They fucking suck. They get what they fucking deserve. I hate them. And by the way, I now understand that because I'm a boomer, probably not everybody's going to understand when I talk about them being the skin job company. This is a reference to Battlestar Galactica, where they would call the Cylons that take on a human appearance skin jobs. Which basically they're machines underneath, but they look like humans. And that's kind of like the whole thing, because if you look, for instance, at Diablo Immortal, kind of looks like Diablo, but in reality, it's just like a fucking piece of shit that they use on all of their games, which is like, oh, here's this action RPG engine that we have. And then they just put a skin on top of it. So it's a skin job.
Yeah.
That's why I call them the skin job company.
Yeah. Okay. So the next topic is related to this topic because we're still in the realm of scumbags being scumbags and finally paying for their scumbaggery. In this one, we're talking about IGN, at least not directly about IGN, but about, I want to call this an expose because it's kind of similar to an expose. It's pretty long. It's pretty beefy. It's not quite a Jason Schreier expose, where that guy can sometimes write articles that take 3 hours to read through. That's not quite on the level here. But basically, IGN is claiming that the blockbuster games bubble has burst. Now, before we get into the actual specifics of the article, what's your immediate feelings around hearing that sort of title? What do you immediately think?
The blockbuster games bubble as burst. Yeah. I mean, it's a weird thing because the reality is I've never really cared that much about what people consider blockbuster games. Because like people talk about blockbuster games. What are they talking about? Call of Duty. Grand Theft Auto. Probably some FIFA or Madden or some bullshit that I don't give two shits about. Fucking Fortnite. All of these are what a lot of people refer to when they're talking about the big blockbuster games. And I'm just like, I don't give a fuck about any of those, bro. I'm here to play like Elden Ring, which you can call that a blockbuster game, but I don't think that Elden Ring is included as one of the games that's going to go the way of the dodo in this particular article. I like Monster Hunter, which you can also call a blockbuster game, but when people talk about blockbuster games, these aren't the games that kind of like come up, right? So a lot of what a majority of the gaming audience considers to be blockbuster is already stuff that I don't give a shit about. So it basically, when I look at this article, it's like, this doesn't affect me in any way, shape, or form. So I don't care.
Well, you see, you're absolutely on the money there, because what they're talking about here, effectively, from my reading of the article, and we'll get into some specifics because there's some juicy stuff here. But what they're talking about effectively is games that have lost track of reality, where you have a budget of, say, $300 million for a game, but that game doesn't even sell 100 million worth of copies. Or like Dragon Age The Veilguard is a great example, because we now have some actual insider leaked data that proves the game only just managed to get past 1 million in sales. And the other problem, of course, is that the cost of this game was actually over 300 million. So there's no way for them to break even. Just, they are never breaking even on this game. So that's really what this article is referring to, although it's never explicitly stated, because it does what you just said you hate, which is it sort of lumps all big budget titles together. And then it's like, well, okay, but sometimes big budget titles really do deliver on the budget. You know, you can see that budget was spent well. Elden Ring, for example, I guarantee you Elden Ring didn't cost $10 to make, right? It definitely cost a couple of million.
Yeah, of course. Elden Ring costed a lot of money, but when you look at Elden Ring, like, you can see where that money went, and it didn't go to superfluous shit like, oh, let's hire some fucking big budget Hollywood actor or something like that. And the interesting thing is that Elden Ring is able to squeeze talent out of the most unexpected places. Like we've talked about in Shadow of the Earth Tree, the guy who the guy who voice acted, I forget the name of his character, but there's a character that just goes, "Curse you, Bale!" And this is like a traditional British actor that they just pulled out, and they were like, okay, listen, here's what you're going to do, and here's how it's going to work. And the guy became famous overnight for the couple of lines that he did in Shadow of the Earth Tree. So it's like they're very good at identifying talent where a lot of people haven't recognized the potential of said talent. So, and we're talking across all fields as far as I'm concerned. And again, the other thing that Elden Ring does that a lot of these big budget titles aren't doing is that Elden Ring isn't trying to make, not Elden Ring, From Software, they're not trying to make a game for everyone. No. Quite the opposite. Their whole philosophy is a game for everyone is a game for no one, which is something that I completely agree. They're like, no, this is what our audience likes. We have an audience here. We know what they're looking for, and we're going to give it to them. And we're going to try to innovate as much as we can, but we're going to give them exactly what they think they're going to get. And then we're going to try and surprise them somewhere along the way with a couple of new and interesting things. And that's their philosophy. Whereas if you're talking about a lot of these games that are being, you know, that would be referenced in this, a lot of these big AAA blockbusters, what are these companies doing it? They're playing it as safe as they possibly can and not innovating at all. And rather than focusing on what their base wants, they're like, no, we need to cast as wide of a net as possible, and we need every gamer in the world to come play our game. And the problem with that is that you end up with a lot of games that feel very generic. And then people are like, well, I mean, you know, there's, like, for instance, a company that has recently been suffering a lot from this is obviously Ubisoft, because every fucking game they have is like, oh, this one's first-person Assassin's Creed. This one's regular Assassin's Creed. This one's tactical Assassin's Creed, which would be Ghost Recon. So it's like you have these fucking 50 Shades of Assassin's Creed, and that's all you do. And it's like, people don't want to play 50 Shades of Assassin's Creed. They want to at some point, you have to give them something new. And you can't just like be playing it safe all the time. I would say another example, if we really want to talk about a blockbuster game that took the budget and really used it well, would be Cyberpunk 2077. Yes, it spent hundreds of millions of dollars, but it delivered, in the end, a really solid game. You can see where that money went. You can see where that money was spent. What this article is alluding to, and we're not going to go through the whole article, but it basically. But I have a couple of passages here that I would like to bring up before we move forward. So one of the things that they say is, across the past 2 years, over 23,000 jobs, 23,000 jobs in the video game industry were lost, with a staggering 6,000 in January this year alone. And over 30 video game development studios have ceased operations. 30 fucking
I just want to point out here, I've also linked them, people can see on the screen now, around 21% of European games professionals have been laid off in the past year. That is staggering.
Yeah.
But anyways, continue.
That is beast, yeah. So some of these studios include Arcane Austin, Volition, and most recently Firewalk Studios, who made, these are the guys who were working on Concord. What's worse, this trend only shows signs of continuing rather than diminishing. And the main reason why we've gotten here is because everybody got used to what was happening during COVID-19. So there was a huge inflated demand because they had to stay at home. They had nothing to do. So it's like you had two things to do. You can Netflix and chill. Like if you have a girlfriend, you guys can spend as much time as possible exploring all of the pages of the Kama Sutra and fucking until you're tired. But other than that, what do you got to do? You got Netflix and you got video games, and that's pretty much it, right? So video games experienced a massive boom because people are too lazy to fuck nowadays, I believe. So, people were just playing video games instead. And because of that, there was a massive increase in demand. And what did these greedy companies do? They were like, hey, bro, it's the season, what we call in Portugal, the season of the fat cows. Because the cows are fat and plumpy, and that means that we're going to make a lot of fucking money. And this is going to be the new norm forever. So they went on a fucking hiring spree. And guess what? People weren't in lockdown forever. And therefore, people now came out of lockdown. They're doing their regular lives and their activities, and they're not playing video games as much anymore. And all of this massive hiring spree that these companies have done mean that professionals are now fucked. That coupled together with the fact that a lot of these companies are not taking chances with their video games, and they're basically just playing it as safe as they possibly can. And, they're just not making that interesting video games to begin with, like Concord, which was something that people said, we're not interested in this. I don't know what you guys are doing. Probably should think this through. And they released the game anyways, and then people are like, hey, guess what? We're not going to buy it. And then there's also, there is a certain portion of this that also involves DEI, even though they don't bring that up in this particular
IGN will never talk about that.
Yeah, but there's also a section of that does involve the EI, and some people in certain studios going like, if you don't like it, don't buy it. And then guess what? People don't buy it. And then what happens? Then the game doesn't sell, and then things go to shit. Yeah. And again, I'm not one of the people that gets too involved in the whole culture war thing, but it is definitely a factor that is causing this type of stuff to happen in the story, and it would be completely ridiculous to not even bring it up.
I mean,
now another thing that they say,
I just want to on that because before you continue, I want to talk about what you just said there. I'm currently replaying Mass Effect.
I shouldn't have brought it up.
No, I'm not talking about the DI stuff. I'm talking about just the quality of writing. I'm currently replaying Mass Effect, right? And yesterday, during the stream, I'm doing the small quest where a dude asks you about the body of his wife. His wife was at Eden Prime, and she died, and the military won't release her body. So you go to the dude that's working for the military that has her body, and you talk to him, and he explains to you that they're running tests because they've never seen anyone die from these wounds. It's not consistent with any weapon that they know of. So I go back to the guy, and I'm choosing the Renegade option. And I'm basically, my character through the Renegade options is berating this guy, telling him, your wife's death may save more lives. Stop being selfish. Like, your guy is genuinely just being a dick. And the guy's response is so emotional, so heavy, and it's so raw. And then you compare it to things like the Veilguard, and you just go, bro, what happened? How did we get here?
I cannot emphasize because like I've been playing Veilguard, and it's like there was a moment that was so incredibly immersion breaking.
Yep.
Actually, like two that I can even think of in recent memory that just like completely break your immersion, like in every way imaginable. Like one of them was we were having this moment with one of the characters, like those companion missions that you do, and it's just like it's me and it's this guy called Lucanus, which is this he's like an assassin that's been possessed by a demon,
Okay.
right? And we're going through the marketplace, and he's buying all of these different things, and it's clear that he's buying stuff to give to other companions in your team. So he's being like, nice. And the comment that my character makes is like, oh, I wouldn't have expected you to be buying groceries for the team. And it's like, what is this? This is like a fucking fantasy game. Okay, medieval fantasy game. Buying groceries for the team?
Yeah,
who wrote this? Like that, because the thing is, right? A lot of people will read that and be like, "Oh, come on, that's completely innocuous. Who cares?" It's like, no, this is Marvel level drivel that is being put on a medieval fantasy video game where the dialogue makes no sense.
Oh yeah.
And if you think that one's not bad, there's another one where there's a little dialogue that I was playing the game, and this is like one of those things where your two companions start bantering amongst themselves, and it is Harding and Ballara were the two companions that I had at the time. And so Ballara starts talking to Harding about some race of, I don't know if it's elves or whatever. They were called the Hala.
Uh-huh.
It's Halla. And then basically at the end of that, so you see, when you need a Hala, all you have to do is holla. Get it? And I was like, oh my God, dude. It's like, imagine your screen shattering with a baseball bat, just like shattering the screen, breaking the fourth wall right into your fucking face. It's like, bro, I wasn't aware that we were playing a rom-com or something like that. Like, because it's supposed to be a medieval fantasy game.
Yeah.
And this is why I've actually said that we're getting sidetracked here into the Dragon Age stuff, but I've actually said that this game would have been way better if they didn't call it a Dragon Age game.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of aspects I actually like about the game, but it just shouldn't have been called Dragon Age, because it's not. It's straight
doesn't
up
even
not,
feel
as
like
far as
Dragon
I'm
Age.
concerned.
But
anyway,
I just quickly want to say on that point
go ahead.
again, I'm going to compare it to Mass Effect because this is another BioWare title.
Exactly.
In Mass Effect,
agreed.
when you have Ashley and any of the aliens in your team, Ashley is a dick because Ashley is xenophobic as hell. Ashley hates
and this is
aliens,
a good thing,
right? When you speak to Ashley, she tells you straight up she is humanity first. Screw the aliens. She doesn't trust them.
Exactly.
And there's this one scene in the elevator where you're just going this, so they're just bantering amongst themselves. Tali asks Ashley a question, and Ashley is so bluntly sarcastic in her answer. I can't exactly remember even, but I remember during stream, I was like, what? That's such a dick move. But she's just, you can tell Ashley does not like Tali because Tali is an alien.
Yeah.
And
this is a good thing.
Because it creates that dynamic. And you can also see Ashley sort of over the course of time realize, okay, she never gets to like aliens, just FYI. But she does reach a point where she kind of goes, fine, I'll work with them. Right? Sort of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it adds to her character. It adds to the dynamic of the game. You get none of that in games like Veilguard these days, where
Veilguard is like exactly the way. So far, for my, I'm like 20 hours in, give or take. From my experience, it's been exactly what Skillup has described. Whenever characters are having a conversation, it's like AJAR's in the room, and so they're all on their best behavior. They're never going to get, at least so far, they've never gone out of line. They're all as understanding and as accepting of one another as they possibly can, and it makes no fucking sense.
Not,
like, I'm not even joking. Whenever you're with your companions, there's never been one hint of tension between anyone. They're always like, "Oh man, I'm so excited to learn from whatever it is that you have to teach me."
I remember
Oh.
clearly Isabella misgendering Trash and then doing push-ups. I
haven't seen that scene.
But
yet.
that is 100% tension right there. She did 10 push-ups. That's a whole tension scene. But no one ever gets angry. Like, that scene would unironically have been better if Trash just started beating the shit out of Isabella or some shit. Just to get some kind of dynamic between the characters that draws you in, right? And I'm gonna give you this example. There's a conversation that happens between Ashley and Shepard on the Normandy, where Ashley is being mega xenophobic, and I mean mega.
Yeah,
Guess what the game does? The writers take a complete step back. They provide zero commentary on her xenophobia. The player instead can choose to either back the xenophobia and join in on the let's hate all aliens, or reprimand Ashley for being xenophobic.
Exactly.
It is completely up to the player.
And here's the thing. A lot of people nowadays will look at that. Actually, I shouldn't say a lot of people. It's probably not that many, but some people will look at that nowadays and be like, oh, how could you ever accept this to be present in a game? Look at the degree of xenophobia. It's a fucking video game. And I'm gonna tell you what, whenever I'm playing a video game as a dwarf, I'm incredibly xenophobic towards anything that has a green skin. Okay,
I want to genocide all dwarfs and gnomes as well. So let's go.
Exactly. I want to genocide all of the orcs and all of the goblins.
Oh,
and if given an option, if given the option to do that in the video game, I will fucking do it, and I won't even look back. And guess what? It's because it's a fucking video game, and I'm role-playing a dwarf who has been wronged by orcs and goblins for generations.
Rightfully so, by the way.
And that is fun.
Yeah.
That is fucking fun. Okay. And some people will want to extrapolate from that. Oh, I bet Rurikhan's a racist in real life. Yeah. Okay.
But then,
fine,
you see,
take
the
whatever
thing
you
is,
want from that.
you compare that conversation, say, with Ashley, which you know exactly what we're talking about. And I'm sure many of the viewers have had that conversation as well. With anything that happens in Veilguard or Star Wars Outlaws or modern day games, really. It's almost as if in the olden days, they would present you with this ridiculous moral quandary, but the writers would be completely hands off. They would be like, it's up to the player to decide how they want to deal with this. In the modern era, that's not allowed. If you have a moment like
that's
this,
the thing.
they carefully take you through it.
There are games that let you.
Some games,
stuff,
not all.
Like, for instance, Baldur's Gate 3. In Baldur's Gate 3, you know, there's like 10 different ways in which you can deal with the goblin camp. Guess what I fucking did? I murdered every last one of those fucking goblins. And the last one that I found was like celebrating, drinking. I threw him off a cliff. And then he came running right back. And guess what I did? I threw him off a cliff again. Yeah. And after he was dead, I grabbed his body and threw him into the water. Yeah, but that's what I did. And the game let me do that. And wait, there's more. That was that one point where the goblins show up and they're about to do something. I forget what it is. And your character has the option to just like force choke one of them. I force choked that motherfucking goblin, and I watched as he couldn't breathe anymore, slowly dying in front of my eyes, because the game let me do that, and that was cool.
But I just want to say, you are comparing a standout modern game to all of the other modern games. I mean, by the sales numbers, by the player numbers, it's clear that that is what players want. The ability to play the game in whichever way they choose to play the game. But modern day games, specifically from AAA developers, the ones we're talking about in this article, they don't do that. In the Veilguard, every opportunity that you have for a moral dilemma to pop up basically feels like the writers take you by your little hand, your little childish hand, and they walk you through the conversation. If you go to the Tasha's, you can try it out for yourself, because I've heard people show this.
You're hyper focusing on Tash. Let me give you another example that doesn't involve any like identity politics or anything like that. That shows you how the writing is absolutely.
You're welcome to do that. I know the Tasha stuff because I made multiple videos on it, but that's why I use it as an example. But you're welcome to use anyone. I, by the way, have only played about 8 hours of Dragon Age, and that was enough for me. So I don't know all of this stuff.
It's not anyone, but there's this scene which I would argue is probably the biggest decision that you have to make, where there's basically like 2 cities. Both of these cities are getting attacked by dragons. Each of these cities has a character in your party that kind of like represents the city, that is deeply involved in that city and the politics and all of that stuff of each of these cities. Okay. So in a way, you're kind of like choosing, okay, if I choose this city, this other character is going to get upset. And if I choose this other city, the other character is going to get upset. For sure. This is going to be what happens. And you know, when stuff like that happens in Mass Effect, right? What do you usually do when stuff like this happens in Mass Effect? You're invested, right? Yeah. You're like, holy shit. This is a massive decision. Like, oh my god, you have to, you have to take a step back, and you're like, oh my god, I need to consider this like in a million different ways. Every single time I was given that decision in Mass Effect, that's how I felt. I was like, oh man, I need to like really think about this and the implications and all this stuff. The one time they did that in Veilguard, you want to know what I felt? Absolutely fucking nothing. Like one person in my chat described it the best way, which is, this is a choice between don't know and don't care, which is exactly the way that I felt. I was looking at it and I was like, you know what? I don't give a fuck about this city. I don't give a fuck about the people that live in it. I don't give a fuck about this faction. I don't even give a fuck about this character. Yeah. And then I look at the other city. Guess what? I also don't give a fuck about this city, this character, the people in it. I don't care. The game hasn't done the job to make me care about any of these people. So I don't. Yeah. I simply don't. I couldn't care less which of those choices I've made. You want to know why I chose one of the cities? Because that city had coffee, and I was like, man, we got to save coffee, bro. We need coffee. That's was it. Decision, so I was like, we got. It's like I chose in favor of coffee.
But the reason,
and the other thing is, you would expect that would generate tension with the character that I didn't help, right? Yeah. You'd expect that character like, oh, I can't believe you fucked me over. I can't believe you would do this. You know what it actually does? What? That character got offensive bonuses because she's mad.
Oh, wow. Nice.
She now deals more damage.
Wow. That makes sense.
She also can't heal you, but I was never using her to heal anyway, so I was like, I don't fucking care.
That's a good play.
So basically, she got a buff. So I made this decision that fucked over this character, her faction, her city, and what I get is that now she deals more damage.
What a coincidence. That's exactly what I wanted.
Exactly.
But I
was using her for damage to begin with.
The reason I use the Tash is because it's on the same level today as Xenophobia would have been back with Mass Effect.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
In the Tasha scene, now, I haven't played the Tasha scene myself. I've spoken to someone who did play it, and they kept reloading to see if one of the options would allow you to basically tell Tash, screw off with your pronouns, we don't care. None of them do.
You can't.
All of them lead to Isabella doing the push-ups and your character basically praising Trash for how amazing she is.
And and by the way, I haven't seen these scenes yet, so I don't know exactly how they play out, but considering the experience that I have with the game so far, it doesn't surprise me at all what you're telling me. And this kind of goes back to, remember when we talked about this the first time and I said, well, what about the villain? Is the villain allowed to misgender you? Because that would make fucking sense.
Yeah.
Right? Villains, like, they're going to get at you any way they possibly can. But no. Which is just like, it's fucking, it's stupid. Like, I'm sorry, because you need to be able to present these situations in a believable way. And I kind of feel like if I was trans, I would want the villain to misgender me so that I would fucking hate him even more.
You kick his nuts.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point. Because, like, you want to know why Asterion in Baldur's Gate 3 is I will always say that it is one of the best characters in that game because I fucking hate his guts. I hate him so much. I can't fucking stand him. And that is why he's such a good character, because he's able to get these feelings out of you where you feel strongly about him. And by contrast, in Veilguard, like I told you, I was given this massive moral choice that I had to make, and I couldn't give two shits. And the choice that I ended up making only made the character that was supposed to be upset with me deal more damage. It's like, what? It's like, dude, you want to win this way or you want to win that way? How? Which way do you want to win the video game? There were no penalties. There's nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, there might be something further ahead in the game, but right now, I'm not seeing it.
No, but I think that's just where we are now. And we did get a bit of topic, but it is in topic still, because it is absolutely one of the things. Look, when you're a little child, your parents walk you step by step through social interactions because you're a little child. You don't know how it works. When you're an adult, you don't want to feel infantilized. You don't want to start feeling like you're a little child. And when you can actively see the writers take your little baby hand and walk you through these hard-hitting, modern-day catastrophe conversations, and you realize that there really is only one right option, and the writers will not allow you to make the wrong option, it feels bad. It feels fake. I want to be able to tell Tash, go fuck yourself. I want to be able to tell, what's the dwarf's name, to kick rocks. But I can't. I'm consistently, if I get angry at the dwarf, even the angry options don't actually express anger. So I'm not able to be a dick to Lace or whatever her name is. It's just, where's the tension? And it's not just the Veilguard. Yeah. Veilguard is just the newest problem here. But it goes so much deeper than that. And you're about to read the next bit here.
So, before we move on to topic, I want to bring something in for that dialogue stuff. So, keeping up with the whole dialogue wheel thing, that's one of the things that I also noticed is that I rarely got my character to say what I actually wanted to say. And I would just like to ask all video game developers out there that have multiple dialogue choices, can we just go back to the days where you would actually just show me what the character is going to say? Yeah. Like, can we get away from this? Like, oh, choose this option for your character to make a joke. And then I choose the joke option and my character is dead serious. And I'm like, that's not what I was choosing. Yeah. Or choose the one for your character to be assertive, and he just has like the most passive thing ever to say. Like, the dialogue selections in Veilguard don't actually represent what they say your character is going to say, which is also very disappointing. There's often situations I'm like, oh, say this thing. Oh yeah, this will be great. And then my character says the dumbest shit you can think of. And I was like, what the fuck? That's not at all what I wanted at all. Like, just give us the text back.
I agree with you, because it's not just in Veilguard. This is actually the one part where I'll probably criticize BioWare and all other gaming companies these days.
Bethesda as well.
Especially from Fallout 4 onwards. Because at least in the other Fallouts, your character didn't speak. So you would actually see exactly what your character is about to say. And I do have to say, in this one, Baldur's Gate also nails it, because again, your character doesn't really speak, so it tells you exactly what your character is about to say. But even in Mass Effect, there are times where it will tell you you're about to say this thing. Now, it's not anywhere near as egregious as it is in the Veilguard, because in Mass Effect, if you choose the angry option, your character is actually going to be angry. But sometimes you'll choose like a more neutral option, but then it's not neutral at all. The way you're answering is clearly biased towards one way and the other. And you go, wait, but that's not what I wanted to say. Why did this thing say I'm going to say this when I'm not saying this?
Yep.
That is super annoying. Like, if you are going to have these smaller choices because you want the dialogue wheel instead of just like an actual dialogue box, at least make sure that if I'm saying something, I know what I'm saying, and I don't end up saying something where I go, wait, that's not what I wanted to say. It's annoying, and it is one of those things that you might not see it as a game developer, but for us gamers, it's not the same as immersion breaking, but it has the same effect.
It's pretty much immersion breaking as far as I'm concerned, because it's like particularly in an RPG, I'm role-playing this character a certain way. I expect the character to act a certain way. And then you're like, okay, make a joke here. And I was like, yes, this is the perfect situation for me to make a joke. And then my character's dead serious. Like, what? No. And it just ruins it. But anyway, Getting back onto the whole budget situation.
Yes.
Another thing that they report here is that just 5 years ago, AAA projects' average budget ranged between 50 million and 150 million. This is the average budget. Today, the minimum average budget is 200 million. Call of Duty's new benchmark is 300 million, with Activision admitting in the Competition and Market Authority's report on AAA development that it now takes efforts of 1.5 studios to complete the annual Call of Duty.
Do you know how nuts that is? What, in other words, the requirements that they now have to release a single Call of Duty title is so bonkers that they need 1.5 studios just to finish it, just to finish the game in time, because costs keep ballooning. They keep pushing the envelope. They keep pushing higher. And I mean, this is bonkers. It's absolutely crazy. And then they keep saying, oh, we can't make more money. But 5 years ago, games still sold well. So clearly, the more money you spend does not actually relate to better games.
Yep. And then they say that it's far from Call of Duty facing ballooning costs. In the same CMA report, an anonymous publisher admits that development costs for one of its franchises reached $660 million, with $550 million in marketing costs on top of it.
Yep.
And that is a $1.2 billion game. Now, me and Akalon were hypothesizing what game this could be, and it's like 3 things kind of come to mind. It's either Assassin's Creed Shadows, or it's potentially Grand Theft Auto 6.
Yeah.
I don't know if the numbers for Grand Theft Auto 6 have been made public or not. Or it might have been Star Wars Outlaws. And Star Wars Outlaws kind of like suits that to a T because of the potential licensing costs for the Star Wars game, plus however many developers Ubisoft had working on that game, and the marketing costs, which they also had with, you know, bringing people over, and I'm sure that they plastered that game all over the place, and then it grossly underperformed.
I've been thinking about this while we were sort of discussing other things as well. Like I said to work on this as well. Star Wars Outlaws makes the most sense to me because I'm trying to wrap my head around, like, screw the marketing cost for a second, which is already ridiculous. You have indie games where their entire marketing budget is email a bunch of keys to streamers and hope the streamers play the game, right? And it works like a charm almost every single time. But, you know, so they had no marketing budget. 550 is ridiculous. But what I'm trying to wrap my head around, and this is where me and Rurikon sort of, this is why it led us to those 3 games, is 660 million. That is an obscene amount of money for development costs. It's obscene. So Star Wars Outlaws would make sense if that development cost also includes the IP licensing, because I don't think that that's cheap. You're probably paying 200 to 250 mil easy just for the licensing of that game, if not more even. But then there is another contender that I just thought about, and that might be Dragon Age Veilguard. Let me explain why. This game is 10 years of development. Over the course of 10 years that it's developed, it was reset and restarted at least once, with a rumored actually twice that they had to reset and restart. That could balloon costs very quickly. You know, because you're switching between
there's potential.
So many developers, you're restarting, which takes a lot more money because everything has to basically be done. So it could be that as well. The thing with GTA is, the reason I'm not convinced that it's GTA 6 is the marketing part. Because there's not been that much. Apart from the trailer for GTA 6, they've not really done any marketing for GTA 6.
Yeah, they haven't done that much marketing.
Yeah, so GTA 6 sort of excludes itself on that. So for me, Star Wars Outlaws, I mean, that had serious marketing behind it. Assassin's Creed Shadows, I mean,
That's had a lot of
all of their
behind it.
marketing backfired, but they still spent a lot of money.
It's still there.
And then, of course, the Dragon Age The Veilguard, which also spent crazy money on marketing. And all three of these games, when you look at that price tag of $1.2 billion, whoever made the decision to say that is a fine amount of money to spend on a game is out of their minds and should be fired. None of these three franchises carry enough to the point where it would even be able to make that money back. This is where we get into like actual specifics. The article puts it, Minecraft, the world's best-selling video game of all time, has, as of last year, only achieved $3 billion. It took 12 years to reach that figure, having launched in 2011. And I think GTA is...
It was a different time.
GTA RP or online is also at like, how much is that? Also $1 billion plus that it's made?
I think that one of the biggest problems that we have right now is that because of these ballooning budgets, it means that these games need to sell gangbusters or they're going to suck. That's pretty much the way that it goes. And because of that, what ends up happening is they can't take as many chances. So like, for instance, you look at a game like Dark Souls, and the original Dark Souls back in like 2011, it took a while. I don't remember how long it took, but they eventually reached like 1 million copies. And for them, this was resounding success. Why? Because the budget on the game made sense. And that's always been the case for like From Software games. The budget makes sense. These aren't going to be the most visually impressive games. They look good. These aren't going to be like the biggest blockbuster with Hollywood people involved in it and all of that stuff. But because of that budget, they can take these chances and they, the games sell whatever they sell and it's good for them. So,
I mean, it goes on here. And this is something that I really wanted to point out. These examples of the current AAA publishing cull reflect a deep-rooted fear to engage with anything new and original, with publishers perhaps more risk-averse than ever to stray out of their established IP safety bars. But even well-known IP that could be worth millions in sales and revenue is being left to rot, despite owning Infamous, Jak and Daxter, Killzone, Resistance, and Sly Cooper, to name a few entries in PlayStation's sprawling dormant library. Sony CFO Hiroki Toki recently claimed the company lacks enough original IP to consolidate itself as a true gaming powerhouse. Which is like crazy.
Listen, you can scrap all those, okay? You want to know which one Sony can just like shit out an HD version of? It's not even HD, but you got like a remaster version of, and just instantly make at least easy $1 billion in profit? Bloodborne would sell. Put out Bloodborne, like just like a Bloodborne remaster, a Bloodborne 2. Boom, gangbusters. I think the problem is they know that they have to work with From Software, and From Software is probably asking quite a bit. But guess what? I'm pretty sure that From Software is not asking for 400 fucking million bones.
Dude, it's not just
that you just poof.
Yeah.
You just fucking burn those into the ether with Concord.
I think it's more than that. You see, the problem is because if we start to, we didn't have I didn't pull up an article for this, but we covered this last week or the week before. Sony is now hard coded into this live service model, right? And there's a reason why they're into this live service model, guys. They're spending $1.2 billion on video games these days. It's nuts. So they have to do live.
And by
service.
The way, It's quite discouraging to see another company, which I think is Take-Two. I think Take-Two are the ones who own Private Division, but they basically got rid of Private Division. I forget who they sold it to, but they sold Private Division away. Private Division was the subsidiary of them, whatever, like one of their son companies, whatever. That they were working on like indie titles and games that were taking chances and stuff like that. And they got rid of them, And then they said in some interview or whatever, yeah, we had to get rid of him because we're not in the business of making small indie titles. We're in the business of big blockbuster games. Yeah. So it's like they want to take all of the money that they were pouring into these really cool projects, things like, for instance, The Outer Worlds. That's where that came from. No Rest for the Wicked, even though I think they got to keep No Rest for the Wicked. So that one still would take two. But, No Rest for the Wicked is another really fantastic game. And there's a bunch of other cool games that came out of Private Division, but they're getting rid of them because, no, we're going to put all of our eggs in, the big AAA, big blockbuster thing, which sucks because there's a lot of room to gain in the indie space. And these companies are just we don't care.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's not just them. EA did it as well. EA had that EA Originals thing program that used to run, which produced some really good games, I think Take-Two came from
Unravel,
that.
It Takes
Unravel,
Two. Yeah.
a bunch of really good games. Now, were these games billion-dollar IPs? No, they were never going to be billion-dollar IPs. But they sold well. Guys, if we go, and this is why the AAA industry is out of their minds. They have these massive budgets, and from their perspective, all games must have these massive budgets because obviously that's what gamers want to see. But then time and again, we see games like Palworld coming through, absolutely knocking it out of the park. It doesn't have any of the famous Hollywood actors in it.
Yep.
You see Elden Ring knocking it out of the park. You see Monster Hunter knocking it out of the park. Cyberpunk is the exception because it does have mega Hollywood talent in it, but it also makes sense for that setting. The characters work there. But if you're talking about a game like Call of Duty, do you need actual actors to play the actual characters in the Call of Duty campaign? Call of Duty's campaign, while cool, is not why most people play Call of Duty. You can use B-rate actors if you want, and it will still be fine, right? So fundamentally, you just have the industry is bonkers, and now they're in this area where they must have every game be live service, because that's how they think they're going to make their money back. Instead of saying, you know what, maybe it's fine if sometimes you launch smaller games. And that's, by the way, how this article ends, because this article does end with this guy saying they have two options here. Option number one is they keep going, right? So they just keep releasing these massive worlds, overspending, under-delivering. Guys, I would like to draw your attention back to the original Assassin's Creeds. These games were set in a single city. The city was open world, but it was a city, right? It was very contained within the walls of that city. And there is not a single modern day Assassin's Creed title that comes anywhere close to those games in terms of the ability to tell the story, to feel like an assassin. Like, dude, when you play with Altair, you feel like an assassin.
I've heard that Mirage kind of does that, but I haven't
Mirage goes back to that sort of, this is the single city, this is it. And I guarantee you the budget on that game was a hell of a lot less than the budget of these new Assassin's Creeds, proving that players don't need you to build these, Assassin's Creed Valhalla level worlds so that they can run around in a mostly empty map where the only things that you really do is just can repeat the same bullshit over and over again because it keeps popping up like some live service game from hell. So that's the one option. Just keep going and hope that you make money. We've spoken about this. The problem with live service games is,
doesn't work.
By their definition, they require a lot of input and a lot of time. Gamers, funny enough, are human, and humans never have enough time. So if all games are live service, then by definition, some games will have no players because we don't have time to play these bloody games. And you see the indie studio, like the indie landscape is doing so well because it's going the complete opposite direction. It's not doing live service. There you have Palworld. I love using Palworld as an example because Palworld plays as if it should be a live service game, and yet it isn't. Or Elden Ring. When you play Elden Ring, you have this sense of this could so easily be a live service game, and yet it isn't. It's the game, play the game, done. End of discussion. And it works. People love it. People go back. that's their other option, is go the route of the indie developers. Smaller projects, far smaller in scale, but deliver to the players a solid 10 to 20 hour experience, and then they're done. Because they do actually say here, and how often is this the case? You have these giant Ubisoft and BioWare experiences where the total playtime for the game is something like 60 hours. But the actual playtime is maybe like 15 hours. If you exclude all of the traveling and running around the open world, trying to do stuff, it's like maybe 15 hours of gameplay. That's just absolute bullshit. So yeah, that's the end of the conversation. But linking into that conversation, because why wouldn't we talk about this? Now, I know for a fact, Rurikon, that you are a massive Disney stan. Like you love Disney. I have very good news for you, because Disney, your favorite company in the whole world,
I love the House of Mouse, dude,
is merging with probably your favorite person. I think you've said to me before, if you weren't married, you'd probably marry this guy. Andrew Wilson is being considered for the top spot, the CEO of Disney. Disney really wants to turn their business around, and they're getting Andrew Wilson to do that.
Yeah. And Andrew Wilson will be the right person for the job, absolutely. If you're talking about completely being an absolute corpo piece of dog water trash, which is exactly what Disney wants, apparently. They want some more corpos in there. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, Andrew Wilson will definitely do the job.
Yeah.
Because he's an amazing CEO.
For those of you that don't know, we don't even have to go through this article because... So we'll just quickly cover it here. Andrew Wilson is currently the CEO of EA. He is famous because he's the guy that invented Ultimate Team for FIFA. That's actually how he became the CEO of EA. He used to work work for EA, and then he came up with his Ultimate Team, and it was basically the thing that allowed EA to print money.
It is gambling for children. Yeah. Legal gambling for children is what Ultimate Team is.
And
also for adults, because adults get hooked on that shit too.
Now it seems like Bob Iger is finally stepping back. This will be the second time that he's stepping away from Disney. And they seemingly want to go after Andrew Wilson for the top spot here. And of course, we know why they're doing this. EA financially is doing incredibly well, but that is literally only because they're they're hooked. Most of the people that play FIFA, play Madden, are addicted to FIFA and Madden. They can't stop playing it. And so if you exclude Madden and FIFA from the EA list of titles, EA is actually a very bad developer, and it makes very little money because most of its other games tank, with the exception of the Star Wars games, the last two at least. So it's
even those. I don't think the success of like Jedi Survivor and Fallen Order would even come close to comparing to their sports division.
No.
So yeah, the sports division hard carries.
Yeah. If you remove the sports division, EA is actually probably a bankrupt company. It's probably a company that doesn't make money.
And here's an interesting thing. EA actually had the opportunity to make a fantastic title. There was a game that they released, I think it was last year, called Wild Hearts, which most people probably don't even remember by now. But that was it was actually a really fun game that was going to bring some competition into the Monster Hunter scene. And it was a really fun. I cannot emphasize this enough. It was a super fun game. Guess what they did with it? They released it too early. They weren't ready with additional, follow-up content to have like a steady cadence of stuff that would keep the game relevant. And on top of it, the game had the biggest thing. It had shit optimization. Like, we're talking about a video game that, because it ran so bad, you would get the parts where the game would literally be running in slow motion because that's how it would handle frame drops. It would just slow everything down. So I remember at one point I'd be fighting monsters like actually in slow motion. And I was like, this is the dumbest thing. Yeah. This game had so much potential. It did so many things right. And yeah, they completely fumbled it. And that game is now pretty much dead. Yeah. So good job.
I mean, the other thing that we should probably discuss here with Disney, because I agree with everything you just said there, is Disney turns to Rey to lead Star Wars movies with everyone else dead.
Boy, oh boy, Rey, that amazing character, bro. Totally not a Mary Sue. Absolutely not. Why would you say this? No.
But you know what is so sad about this? The actress that plays Rey is actually a pretty good actress. She does a very good job playing Rey. The issue is, of course, Rey's writing is abysmal.
Dog shit.
And
it's terrible.
It's the worst writing. Well, it's not the worst. Dragon Age Veilguard takes that one, but it's close to the worst writing you'll ever see. And the problem is, again, we're dealing with these highly politically charged, not even movies, because Star Wars has always had a lot of politics, obviously, within it. It's more the politics of the writers that push them to make these awkward decisions that...
I'm just going to say it. The whole Kathleen Kennedy thing, the Force is female. Fuck you. The Force is for everyone.
Yeah, and it should be.
Force is female.
But you see, that's exactly what I'm talking about, right? It's this feminist, super anti-white male bullshit influence on the writers. And here's the thing. By spending maybe half an hour per film on a little bit of setup, you could have avoided most of the issues with Rey. For example, if you just made Rey completely incapable of controlling her force from the beginning, no one would mind. If you allowed a half an hour Rocky montage of her training with Luke Skywalker in learning how to be a Jedi,
dude,
that would already have solved so many of the issues.
Listen, Rey knew how to fly the Millennium Falcon better than Han Solo. Yeah. She also knew how to modify the Millennium Falcon better than Han Solo.
And that's his ship.
She also never had any problems with the hyperdrive. It's like, bro,
dude, it's like, but this is exactly it, right? There's no setup. You're not doing this character any justice, and the actress that plays it is good. She knows how to act.
A character needs to fail in order to be a good character.
It's the hero's journey,
I feel like it needs to fail at some point. Like you look at Luke. Luke fails. Luke fails often. Yeah. Luke fucks up all of the time, and that's why he's so relatable, because we all fuck up in life. It's that simple. Han Solo was a mercenary when the game started. By the way, when the movie started. By the way, Han shot first. Han shot that fucker. He shot him good. The other guy never even got a shot off, okay? I'm not going to take any of this fucking revisionist history. He shot, I think his name was Greedo. He shot that motherfucker dead in the face. Yeah. Fuck that guy. And it was a good thing, because that is how his character's journey goes. Because, nobody expected him to show up at the end, and at the end of it's called The Last Hope, Final Hope, whatever. I forget what the name of the first movie is even, because damn, I need to go rewatch that trilogy. Anyway,
Isn't it Rise of the
he shows up at the end.
Oh, you're talking about the original?
I'm talking about the original trilogy, okay? I don't talk about that bullshit. Yeah. So Han Solo showing up at the end to save Luke against Darth Vader. That was unexpected. And that was a cool journey. That was a cool arc for Han Solo, a cool arc for Luke, who fucked up and is still kind of like, trying to figure out everything. It was a cool arc because these are characters that had depth and they failed. Yeah. Rey never failed. Yeah. The whole fucking movie, she just wins. Win after win after win.
Can't lose, bro. She's a goal boss.
Like, all right.
Well, what do you expect? She's a goal boss. If she loses... The problem is, and you might say, but Acklon, why does this matter? The hero's journey isn't just a platitude, guys. It's a tool used by writers because of... And trust me when I say this, there are plenty of studies and focus groups run every single year where they try out different writing styles, or what they would call in writing tropes, to see if those tropes work with the audience. As it turns out, there is no better trope for a protagonist than the hero's journey. It's the one that allows people to connect with this character. We need to see this character fail. We need to see some level of humanity within this character. Otherwise, the character is so far off that we cannot connect with it. There's no connection there.
Yeah.
So, this is sort of, it's a short thing. They want to focus on Rey because they think Rey is going to carry Star Wars. In my opinion, I haven't watched the second season for Andor, but I would so easily focus the entire thing on Andor instead because he's a much better character. The Andor series is actually good. Or Rogue One. Rogue One is also a pretty good series.
Rogue One
pretty good movie.
is the best.
Yeah.
It was the best movie that Disney Star Wars was able to produce.
Hands down.
Rogue One is actually
Rogue One was really fun.
And by the way, this one goes out to all of the people that are going to be very quick to label both you and me as like all the misogynists. Blah, blah, blah. The main character of Rogue One is a woman.
Yeah, but it's good.
But it's good. That's the difference. It's just a good fucking movie.
But okay, so still in keeping with the blockbuster discussion, Disney and so on and so forth, we have to talk about something that I think is actually good news. There was recently an interview done with Phil Spencer, Microsoft's gaming division boss, where he made a very cool sort of revelation. He hates gaming DLC. Specifically, he hates the kind of DLC where the third level is removed just before launch and then released as a DLC. So he actually said, expect very few Microsoft games moving forward to have any DLC. So they'll do DLC where it makes sense. But for the most part, what they want to do as Microsoft is when they release a game to you, that's the game. No discussions.
So it's like when it comes to DLC, there's definitely a lot of things to analyze because a lot of video games do DLC in different ways. Like we glazed Mass Effect earlier, but Mass Effect 3 did DLC in a very, very shitty way because they had like one of the most important characters ever in the franchise basically be a day one purchasable DLC, which was I forget what the name of the race was, but the one of the most important, the progenitors. Whatever it was.
I just had it.
The progenitor guy,
Prothean.
The Protheans, yeah. So they were potentially one of the most important races in Mass Effect, and the character, you could have one of the guys from that race as a companion, but you had to buy it. That was absolutely disgusting. Right. That was a terrible practice. I believe that Dead Space 3 also had something wherein the actual ending of the game came after the game. And that type of stuff really fucking sucks. It really sucks, particularly when you have to pay for it. On the other hand, I think that there are some games that do DLC exceedingly well. Like an example that you would probably bring up would be Cyberpunk with, what's it called?
Phantom Liberty
City, whatever. Phantom Liberty.
Or
right?
Shadow of the Earth Tree.
I hear is Shadow of the Earth Tree is another really good one. But one that I would definitely bring up, which I think is my favorite form of DLC, is Monster Hunter. Mm-hmm. You basically have Monster Hunter comes out, and the base game brings with it low rank, high rank. You can usually get easy 100 hours out of it. You can get significantly more if you're hardcore into it, like I am. Like to give you an idea, I played 1,600 hours of Monster Hunter World, just the base game. Although that's also exaggerated because I'm a content creator, can probably scrape like, I don't know, maybe 500 hours there if you're not creating content. But still, it's over 1,000 hours on the base game alone. So low rank, high rank. And then, they support that for a little bit. They give you a couple of more monsters for free and whatnot. And then they start working on the follow-up, which is going to be what they call it used to be called G-Rank DLC in Japan. Now we call it like Master Rank DLC. But basically it's a major expansion, brings with it a bunch of more monsters, new locales, new endgame systems, all that stuff. They charge like $40 for it, whatever. Boom. And you get like easily another 500 hours of content out of that. And it's like, that is an amazing way of doing DLC. But like, what Phil Spencer is saying is more the stuff that we were talking about earlier, which is like cutting up bits of Dead Space 3 and then giving it to you at the end for a price, or cutting up a character from Mass Effect 3 and selling it to you at a premium, which is disgusting.
It is.
Absolutely disgusting.
No, it is.
So yeah, I agree.
Especially when you look at some of the DLC, for example, in Mass Effect, again, BioWare EA. Not just the Prothean one, but there's some DLC for like the Cerberus stuff, which without that DLC, a lot of the Cerberus stuff doesn't make as much sense. Like there's significant story in the Cerberus DLC that you don't have, and then you lose a lot of the context of of Cerberus and their shit. So
yeah,
it is just one of those things. I praise Phil Spencer quite often because when he speaks, I genuinely do experience a guy that seems to love video games, that seems to care about video games. Now, of course, he does work for a very evil, soulless corporation in Microsoft and Xbox, but hopefully he can deliver on it. Although I must say, Bethesda would probably be the one company that shits themselves with this, because I think Todd Howard probably already has like 500 versions of Elder Scrolls 6 lined up, considering fucking Elder Scrolls Skyrim, how many times
that shit's gonna play in my oven, bro. It's gonna play in my oven. Okay.
So it's sort of like hopefully this is a signal of, because whenever you have a player like Microsoft making claims like this, it's big enough and large enough that it might reverberate throughout the industry. And you might see other companies finally realizing, you know what, this isn't something that players like. We should probably try and figure out how to make money without pissing off the player base at every turn. But it is an interesting thing. He goes into a couple of other things, but none of it really relevant. It's just more plans that Xbox have. A lot of the exclusivity stuff has been discussed as well. It really does seem, and I'm going out on a limb here because it's a little reading between the lines of what Phil Spencer has said in this interview, but then also other interviews. It does seem like Xbox truly is giving up on the exclusive game, at least holistically or universally. They might have some games, but every single time they now announce a game that isn't going to be exclusive, like for example Halo, they've already said it's probably coming to PlayStation. So sorry, PlayStation players, you're going to have to play the new Halo as well. But it's interesting that Phil is leading this charge and saying, yeah, we're not going to play this exclusive game anymore.
I mean, it makes sense for him because why? Microsoft owns Windows. Most people game on Windows. You can say, oh, actually, I game on Linux. Well, congratulations. You're part of like, I don't know, friggin' less than 5% of the gaming audience. So it's like, and by the way, I think it's a good thing. As a matter of fact, I would much rather play video games on Linux, but unfortunately, we all know that the support is just quite simply not.
The thing is, Linux can work for Linux can work for a normal gamer. It will not work for you or I. If you're a content creator,
because we gotta create.
If you try and stream from Linux, you're gonna run into so many issues because none of the programs is really.
I run into issues streaming from Windows. Like just yesterday, because I got this new monitor, I spent like the whole morning trying to configure the monitor in a way where I can have it, where I can take advantage of the 240 hertz that this beast has, and at the same time stream the footage to my streaming PC so that I can stream it at 60 FPS, and trying to get all of that stuff to work is a nightmare. I can't even begin to imagine how much I would have to, leapfrog over. Not to mention the fact that I have an AMD GPU that has poor support on Windows. Again, I can't even imagine what the support is like on Linux.
I would argue probably better than on Windows because at least it's the community.
Maybe. Yeah, probably the community just fixed it. They're like, man, friggin' AMD ain't got it, bro. We'll fix it. Don't worry, we got you.
The bigger issue for Linux on streamers isn't so much OBS and actually being able to get the streams working. It's that very few online games allow Linux playing.
because of the anti-cheat and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a ton of problems
Yeah.
there.
So, let's see what happens there. I still think hopefully this signals something for the future where we can get away from the exclusive stuff and just get games into the hands of the players that want to play it.
As I was saying before we got sidetracked, of course this is in Microsoft's best interest because they own Windows. So people are going to be gaming on their operating system, whether doing it through Steam or through the Windows Store.
But it's interesting that he's including PlayStation
on Windows.
Because he could just exclude PlayStation, but he's not. He's going...
He could, but there's no reason, because it's like he's already lost the console war. They lost the console war at the Xbox One stage. And, all the console war fanboys can come in here with PlayStation fanboys celebrating like, oh, PlayStation 1, we're the best. And it's like, congratulations, your prices are going to get grossly inflated. I hope you enjoy that because there's not as much competition for your console in the market. And that's already being shown with the PlayStation Pro being sold at a massive premium. Like, listen, PlayStation 4 Pro was like 400 euros. PlayStation 5 Pro is 700 without a disc drive. You add the disc drive in there, now you're looking at 800. Okay? So it's like this. It's a brutal premium. You're looking at basically almost PC levels in terms of investment, which is pretty ridiculous. So that's what you're celebrating, by the way. It's your prices just going up and up and up and up. And then you have on the other side the Xbox people saying like, oh, you guys are always against Xbox. I'm not against anybody, dude. I think that this is a stupid discussion to have. Because like the whole console wars thing, we should be talking about what is better for us, not what's better for the corporation that's making money, which is what a lot of people are always focusing on, and it friggin' sucks. But yeah, with the whole thing, Microsoft owning Windows, everybody's playing on Windows anyways. And since they already lost the console war on the Xbox One days, at this point, what is Phil Spencer going for? I'm not going to make any more money out of hardware. I might as well make that money on software. If there's a bunch of people playing games on PlayStation, I'll just sell my shit there. Boom, done. And this kind of like rolls into that ad that I asked you to watch.
Do you want me to play it in the background while you talk about this?
Yeah, you can play it. You can play it in the background. But there's this ad that I saw yesterday that Microsoft did, which is like, I understand that this is the right business move for them, but it is very, the ad in particular is super unappealing for me because they're like, oh man, this thing's an Xbox and that thing's an Xbox. And a lot of those devices are basically streaming the game through the cloud, and it freaking sucks. I don't want cloud gaming because there's latency, because if your internet connection even so much as sneezes, you're going to see brutal artifacting on screen. It's just not as cool or as fun as local gaming, particularly if you don't have like super solid internet. And when I'm talking about super solid internet, I'm talking about if you don't have the network infrastructure of Japan or like some Eastern European countries have, like I think, is it Sweden that also has amazing internet, or is it Norway? I don't know. It's one of those countries. Actually, not Eastern, Northern Europe, whatever. You guys get the idea. But like, if you don't have that type of network infrastructure, cloud gaming is never going to be that great to begin with. And I say this as someone that has done cloud gaming because you can do that with PlayStation. I can stream anything that my PlayStation can run. I can stream it onto this, and then I can play it with a controller. So it's like, I'm not talking about this like, oh, big boomer Rurikon doesn't understand the cloud. I understand the cloud. I know exactly what are the advantages and the disadvantages. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't fucking like it. Okay?
No, I agree with you. I think just on the exclusive discussion, I think Phil Spencer is going to be laughing his way to the bank. And I hope that PlayStation picks up on this. Since Xbox did lose the console war, he made the executive decision to go after the biggest audience for their games. Because considering the fact that most of these console companies, PlayStation and Xbox, make their money from game sales, not necessarily from console sales. I don't know if that's still hold true, but about 5 years ago, the reports were all that the first consoles that are usually sold are sold at a loss. They actually subsidize those because they want the consoles out there so people can buy the games. It's only late into the development cycle that they start to make profit as they just, as production ramps up and it gets cheaper and cheaper to produce. And obviously components will also go down in price. But fundamentally, these consoles are not where Sony and Microsoft make their money. They make their money on the game sales. And Phil Spencer is just like, dude, we can just release our games on PlayStation and sell to millions more people. Who gives a shit? They just do that. PlayStation is still in this weird place, man, where I've just heard that they're not stopping their demand for a PSN account on
on PC.
On PC,
which is a mistake.
It's a massive mistake. PlayStation, why would I want a PSN account? I play on PC. What am I supposed to do with this account?
You could justify a PSN account if they're going like, we support crossplay and it's not on our server, so you need our account. So
that's
whatever.
fine.
But anything other than that, like, why would you need a PlayStation account to play Ghost of Tsushima?
Yeah, it's disgusting, and I hope that they stop. But then again, they think they have no original IPs to sell, so maybe.
Bro, sitting on a literal gold mine of Bloodborne, like under his left butt cheek. He's like, I don't see anything. Yeah. What do you mean?
Make me new games.
We don't have any IP. It's like the entirety of the gaming community were like, Bloodborne PC,
dude.
Bloodborne on the PC, and dude's like, what's a Bloodborne? What's that?
You know what's crazy?
Hell, Demon Souls on PC would make bank. Dude, Demon Souls.
Dude, let me put it this way. If they did a remaster of Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, Bloodborne, and Demon Souls.
That's not... Wait. You're confusing things. Dark Souls is not a Sony IP.
No, but it is still from software. It's all part of the same thing. If you do a bundle thing, where in 1 year, so let's say 2025, you do... Demon Souls.
That has nothing to do with Sony.
It doesn't matter because it's going to boost all of the things, right? Because that's sort of the start of the big Souls era of games. So you do a massive announcement where you get From Software to remaster and retool Demon Souls, Bloodborne, Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, right? All for 2025.
Dark Souls already has a...
it has that high definition.
You already have remasters.
Yeah. But I will say they don't play as well on mouse and keyboard. Not as well as Elden Ring. Like Elden Ring, mouse and keyboard, perfect. Dark Souls, not so much.
Listen, bro, I don't have one. Oh, here you go. Listen, bro, get yourself one of these, and you'll be fine. You'll be fine, Accolon. Listen, the controller's not gonna hurt you. Okay, you're gonna be okay.
It's against my faith.
You're more likely you're more likely to get carpal tunnel from clicking on your mouse than clicking buttons on a controller.
I will not have a controller anywhere near me. Sorry.
Accolon's sick, guys. Like, we apologize.
I do apologize for that. But no, if they did something to that effect and maybe then, went out and tried to get some of these really like older games also completely updated and upgraded, like you're looking at Konami with Metal Gear Solid 1, 2. I know they're doing 3, but 2 can also use a remaster and an upgrade. There's so many games that they're sitting on that could be massive for Sony. And yes, some of them aren't original IPs, but some of them are. And
I just think that, like, listen, there's 2 games that would make bank on PC. They're the easiest thing to do, which is just like they've even done a remaster of Demon Souls recently. Just release that on the PC. It's easy. It's like, just grab this, put it on the PC. Boom, done. You don't even have to do anything else. Just release that game just as is on PC. Massive sales, massive monies, good bones. And
imagine full remasters of God of War.
And then Bloodborne.
1, 2, and 3. Like the original God of Wars.
Oh, the original Gods of War?
On PC, that shit would sell like fucking nuts. I played those
like
back on PlayStation.
100%.
They're good.
No, Accolon, you don't understand. They don't have any IP.
Oh, yeah.
You want to know another one? You know what? You want to know another one that would be super successful? Yeah. Wipeout.
Wipeout would work.
Where's my Wipeout?
Yeah.
Give me Wipeout, bro. I was actually just thinking about it the other day. I miss Wipeout so much. I got to install it on my PS5, play Wipeout again. I miss that shit.
But no, there's plenty of games if they're willing to actually just do some remasters. And unlike a lot of other remasters, these would actually be remasters that people would want, because they're really old games. So instead of remastering Horizon fucking Zero Dawn, which was literally yesterday that it launched, how about we remaster the original God of War?
The funniest shit is I keep seeing like the accounts of people that are like mega fans of PlayStation, which is like, hey, cool, I love PlayStation too, don't get me wrong. But like a lot of these people, they're like, oh, look at how much better it is. And then they put like the original side by side with the new one. And I'm like, I think the original looked better. A lot of times I'll look at these screenshots and I'm like, the original looked better. Like, I don't know. There's something about the art style.
Exactly.
And I'm not saying that it has more visual fidelity. No, the new one has better visual fidelity.
But I don't like the new one.
The art of the old one, like I remember there was even this scene that was from Aloy's father. And the new one, because of like all of the remastering and the increased visual fidelity and all of that stuff, the emotional impact that scene is supposed to convey was gone, because he loses a lot of the imperfections that he's supposed to have in his face that like actually showed a certain degree of emotion, and the emotions just came across as flat. And I was like, this is actually a downgrade to the experience.
I absolutely agree with you. I don't know why.
And by the way,
it doesn't look as good.
I want people to understand, I'm a massive fan of Horizon Zero Dawn. I love that game. I'm not sitting here as like, oh, I fucking Horizon Zero Dawn some shit. It's like, I'm a massive fan of Horizon Zero Dawn. I thought that was one of the better stories in the year that game came out. Because like, I know that I like Breath of the Wild better as a game, but I thought that Horizon Zero Dawn had a much better story. I really like the story of Horizon Zero Dawn.
I think leading into remasters, what we should be discussing is...
Which, by the way, female protagonist.
No, I didn't like Horizon Zero Dawn, but it wasn't because of the female protagonist. In fact, I thought Aloy was...
And she's an awesome character.
I thought Aloy was a pretty cool character. I just didn't like the gameplay that much. It wasn't my type of game. But I can see why people would like it. Speaking of remasters, though, we have to talk, because this is actually a rare Blizzard W. Did you see that they just remastered Warcraft 1 and 2?
Oh, okay. That I didn't know. For a second, I thought you were gonna say that Overwatch Classic was a Blizzard.
Yeah, they literally announced...
They remastered Warcraft 1 and 2?
You have to go watch it. I don't have it on the screen right now, but you have to go watch it. They decided to remaster it with modern graphics, but it still looks 20 years old. But in a perfect way, in like the best way possible. It is good. It looks beautiful, but you can tell it's a really old game.
I'll tell you what. I liked Warcraft, but I've always been a StarCraft guy. And I will say, when they remastered StarCraft, it was chef's kiss. It was beautiful. I love
this. Is exactly what they've done. They kept the art style exactly the same. They just made it look better. So the clarity is a lot better. And it now supports modern systems.
Which is the right thing to do, as opposed to whatever the fuck it was they did with Warcraft 3 Reforged that apparently nobody
But also
liked.
they just released Warcraft 3 Reforged patch 2.0, which basically fixed all of the problems that people had with Warcraft 3. So they spend time updating the graphics, making sure it does actually look beautiful, lighting, all that shit. So now it really does seem like you can play Warcraft 1, 2, and 3 in the order that it's supposed to get the full lore and story of the original Warcraft. And it looks gorgeous. It looks absolutely beautiful.
Not gonna lie, kind of want to do that.
Yeah, me too. Once I'm finished with Mass Effect, I'll probably replay all of the Warcraft.
I have too many things that I'm playing right now. It's gonna take me a long time to get
onto another thing that is just weird. And the reason this is weird isn't because it's a bad idea. It's probably the best idea Overwatch has ever had. But it's only a good idea because Overwatch 2 was such a bad idea.
So Blizzard comes out, it's like Overwatch Classic.
It's Overwatch.
You can't make this shit up.
It's Overwatch 2, but it's a classic event that brings back the functionality, the abilities, and everything from the original Overwatch. So
it's like, bro, why does Overwatch 2 needed to exist? It wasn't even Overwatch 2 to begin with.
No.
Listen, the only reason why I was interested in Overwatch 2 was the potential PvE mode that they kept saying, oh, we're making a PvE mode. It's going to be amazing. And I was like, fuck yeah, dude. Blizzard makes cool ass PvE shit.
And then
they're like, actually, never mind. And then actually, we're changing this back. And it's like, bro, it's at this point, it's not even Overwatch 1.1. It's just Overwatch 1 without loot boxes and a worse monetization. Yeah. I think the loot boxes were a better monetization than whatever the fuck this is.
But I think I know what this is. I think what Blizzard is trying to do, and I do want to praise them a little bit for that. This allows them to gauge just how successful their changes for Overwatch 2 has been. Because if this classic event pops off and people just keep playing it and loving it, then they can make this the permanent thing. So they can literally just roll back Overwatch 2.
So what you're saying is we can go back to just having Overwatch 1.
Basically. But it gives them the opportunity to go, guys, you guys loved the classic event so much that we're now making it a permanent game mode.
Listen, it's like what this allows them to see is how badly they fucked up with Overwatch 2. And it's like the conclusion, one of the reasons why I wanted to include this is that I kind of feel that Blizzard as a company, and what you told me earlier just kind of like reinforces this thought that I didn't even know because I didn't watch the anniversary event. So I didn't know that they remastered Warcraft 1 and 2. But the fact that they did just kind of brings even more emphasis to this argument that I was going to bring today to the show, which is Blizzard is a company that for all intents and purposes, over the last couple of years, and as far as I can tell in the foreseeable future, is just coasting off of nostalgia. Like, that's it. It's a nostalgia bait company, and there's nothing else that apparently they're going to do. Like Microsoft forced them to cancel the one original IP that they were working on, the what was it called, Odyssey, whatever the fuck it was, the survival game. That's gone. World of Warcraft is getting refreshed classic servers, because I know that part because I watched a little bit of the Asmongold video. So World of Warcraft's getting refreshed classic servers, which again, what does that bring in? Nostalgia. They're bringing back like Mists of Pandaria, more nostalgia. The current expansions that they're working on is Chris Metzen, nostalgia adjacent shit. It's just like nostalgia. That's literally all they bring to the table now. They became a company that is completely incapable of innovating in any meaningful capacity.
Yeah.
Which is okay if you want to coast off of nostalgia. That's fine. But adjust your budgets accordingly, because like there's nothing new about Blizzard. There hasn't been anything new about Blizzard for years. And what I'm getting from what the stuff that they're doing is that there's never going to be anything new from Blizzard for years, which it's kind of sucks, but whatever.
I don't necessarily get that from it. What I get more is, and this is now where we get into massive speculation, I think that they're already busy working on Warcraft 4. And so the remasters is their way of preserving 1, 2, and 3.
And what is Warcraft 4, though? It's nostalgia.
Yeah, but Warcraft 4 is also something that players have been begging for.
Yeah, players have wanted Warcraft 4 for ages.
So Warcraft 4 is almost definitely coming, in my opinion. But what they'll do is they're updating this so that people can have that proper playtime, right? So that proper play experience of play 1, play 2, play 3, then get 4. I would not be surprised if we see something similar with StarCraft at some point, because I do think
you don't need a remastered StarCraft. No. You need StarCraft 3.
But that's what I mean. I didn't mean remasters. I meant we'll probably get a StarCraft 3 announcement there as well. I don't know what the hell is going on with World of Warcraft. It just seems like there's so many classic versions now, because Mist of Pandaria Classic has just been announced. again, if we're going to do a quick speculation here, my thinking is the reason they're remastering all of this, and I'll have more later today, which you guys won't know because it'll be over already. But later today, during my part, I'm actually going to go into a lot more detail on this. I think
that'll be on Akalon's YouTube channel.
Yes.
Though, right?
That will be on the main YouTube channel.
There you
go. But they won't. It's only good when you watch it live. I don't think there's any point in watching it afterwards. But in my opinion, they're getting ready to remove all of the old leveling through old expansions from retail WoW. And in order to do that, they have to classify all of the expansions so that if people want to play the older expansions, they have access to those older expansions. Because we are getting to the point now where soon it's going to be Welcome to World of Warcraft Midnight Retail and also Midnight Classic launching a week apart, sort of thing, because we're getting very close to the Mists of Pandaria is now the next one. After that, it's World of Draenor. Now, they sort of stick to a once a year. They release a new classic. After that, and also this is getting quicker because remember, there's not a lot of changes in engine that happened between World of Draenor and modern day WoW. So unlike the original classic and the original TBC and maybe even the original Wrath of the Lich King, where they had to make massive changes to the engine, now there's no changes really to the engine, which means they can release once a year. So in the next 4 years, we're up to date, which I don't think is going to happen. I think they're going to stop at Shadowlands Classic. But they're going to stop at Shadowlands Classic, and then I think they're removing...
What an amazing experience that I want to relive. World of Warcraft Shadowlands.
You never know, right?
I think they should stop at Legion, to be honest.
Maybe they do decide to stop at Legion, and they say, well, the problem is just then, if I'm correct, then they are going to remove the original living experience from retail WoW. That leaves, what do you do with BFA and Shadowlands? Do they stay? Are you happy with that? Because that's not... To my mind, Dragonflight is the perfect start for WoW 2.0, if we can put it that way. Because you don't really need to play any previous WoW expansion in order to play Dragonflight. Dragonflight does a great job of explaining what happens in Dragonflight without any knowledge required previously. Whereas if you start in Shadowlands, you need sort of knowledge previously. Start in BFA, you need knowledge previously. So that's why I think that's what they're going to do, because I think what they want to do is they want to repurpose the old zones for new max level zones. So that's at least my conspiracy theory. Tenfold.
I don't know, dude. I think they're just banking on nostalgia, but whatever.
It's also possible, but kind of have to look for the positives amongst the bullshit, which sometimes in the gaming industry gets really tough. But anyways, that's it. That's it from us. So actually, do you quickly want to talk about Monster Hunter Outlanders? I don't know anything about that. I don't even know what it means.
I'm just going to put it out there so that everybody can shame me. They're making a new game. This is not a game that's being developed by Capcom. This is a game that's being developed by the same studio that worked on Call of Duty Mobile, Pokemon Unite, and other mobile games. It's a mobile game. And it's a new Monster Hunter game, and it's like going to be open world survival. But the thing is, I'm looking at the footage for that game. I'm looking at the concept of what they're trying to build, and I was like, this actually sounds pretty cool. So I'm going to check it out. But I can already tell that I'm likely not going to like the monetization. So it might just be something that I play a little bit and be like, oh, okay, whatever. We've hit a wall. I think it's going to be a gacha as well. It hasn't been officially confirmed, but it has all the makings of it potentially being a gacha. And a lot of the wording being used in marketing material is also gacha-like.
Okay.
But yeah. That's it. It's just like it's a new Monster Hunter game, and I'm going to be checking it out. And people should shame me for it because it's a mobile game.
Well, you should feel
I'd be ashamed of
You
myself.
should feel shame
Yeah.
on that one.
But listen, I'm probably going to emulate it on PC. So technically speaking, when I'm playing it, it's kind of like a PC.
Oh yeah, Warcraft Rumble is now on PC. For those of you that cared at all about that. Yeah.
So there is one topic that we didn't talk about that I wanted to bring up just real quick, which is that the ruse that we spoke about for Dragon Age Veilguard seems like that kind of worked. Like we've been seeing a lot of publications now post opinion pieces where they talk about the more negative aspects of Veilguard. And a lot of people I've seen are conflating this as in, these publications are backtracking. It's like, no, these publications have different writers. The concern here should be is why were the writers who were given access to the review copy the ones that were the most positive, and then the ones that would have been more critical didn't have access to a review copy, and therefore their opinion pieces that are now coming out because they've gotten to play the retail version of the game are much more critical when we actually could have used those opinions ahead of the review period so that we would have had a much more balanced analysis of the game. So when people were saying that, you remember the Wolfheart post where he talked about, hey, I was very critical. Looks like I'm not going to be getting a review copy. And a couple of other content creators were critical, and they're also not going to get review copies. And I understand that there were creators that were critical, and they did get review copies. But if you look at the overall score that the game had before it released, it was really, really high, like high 80s, 90s even in some publications. And a lot of the people that would have been more critical of the game didn't actually get access to the game, which, in my opinion, what this means is like it worked. What they wanted to do with carefully selecting the people who got to review the game, it worked. Were there some people that they misjudged, like Skill Up and Mr. Matty Plays, who were still brutally critical of the game? Yes, because, they took a couple of chances. They were like, hey, let's try Skill Up. Let's try this
Normally
guy.
he's not that
Let's
bad.
hope that they don't. Yeah, normally they do reviews that tend to be more on the balanced, so they probably won't just shit all over the game. It turns out that wasn't the case this time around. And a lot of the other people in the mainstream media were more like, hey, we know this person's going to like this. We know this person's going to like that, so we're going to pick and choose who's going to get which review code. And it worked. It 100% worked.
That's
so
true.
all the people telling me and other people that were pointing this out, you guys it's conspiracy theory. It doesn't work like that, blah, blah, blah. It fucking worked. Looked at all the articles that are coming out now of people being way more negative about Dragon Age Veilguard.
Yeah, but I mean,
It is what it is. And by the way, I say this as someone that is still playing Veilguard, and I actually enjoy the combat in Veilguard quite a bit. I'm still going to be playing more of the game. But I just want to make sure that you need a balance of opinions because there's a lot of things to criticize, like we talked about. Dialogue, the writing, the story. There's a lot of problems there. I just happen to like the one aspect, which is I like making builds. I like playing as a dwarf, which not a lot of games let me play as a dwarf nowadays. So playing as a dwarf in Dragon Age is pretty fun. And I like bashing things with my shield. So game has given me a shield bashing dwarf, which is something that is very rare. I'm going to play the fuck out of it. You better believe that.
No, I mean, I think fundamentally it just plays right into the dishonesty of these mainstream publications where they hide, they bury the lead, right? They just consistently, they carefully construct the narrative in such a way that you can't ever really criticize them or accuse them of being biased because then they can go, but wait a second, look, we have articles criticizing it as well. And then it's like, 2 weeks after the fact, bitch, most people have already burnt themselves buying this bloody game when you could have stopped this. You could have ensured that this didn't happen. And I left a message similar to this on Twitter to PC Gamer on their article about the Blockbuster thing, where I said, you are partially responsible for the dire situation that the gaming industry finds itself in, because your job is to be a feedback. You're supposed to create a feedback loop that allows for the CEOs and the suits in these companies to understand why these games are not working with the player base. That's part of your job. But instead, you have swallowed the ideological pills, so you construct everything in such a way that EA walks into this game thinking, well, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, we must be doing something right. And then the game comes out, no one buys the bloody game, and then you, again, pretend like, oh, it's not that bad. It's like, well, at what point do the developers find out what the truth is? Because they're sure as fuck not watching this podcast, not with how much me and Rurikon slag them off. Yet, of course. But they're sure as hell not watching actual YouTubers giving feedback. They're reading your articles, and your articles isn't giving feedback. And it is dangerous. It's a huge problem. But anyways, I think we have to go, guys. I am done. I'm so tired, and I still have to.
Akalon is busted. Yeah. I need to go do my workout because can get these big guns.
I can't even do a workout, but luckily I did. I finished my workouts for the week, so hopefully I'll be back in the gym Monday, bright and early.
Yep.
Anyways, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Rurikon, as always, thank you so much, dude. Really appreciate you. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, be good to each other, be kind to each other, and we shall see all of you in the next one. Peace.